Because that last video cut off when I was just getting going. I think you had something to do with this. My phone said it was full and I needed to delete things, but you know your mind power's at work when I see them. Me filming that video meant I was not petting you. It was a threat. A threat. This guy to all that's holy. All right. You know, it's weird. No matter what I talk about or do, it just brings it into my life. It's crazy. Is there some wild cosmic principle there? Is consciousness a powerful force? Like, I'm in the middle of recording 2 Arcadia Images of America albums, and guess who calls me today? Arcadia Publishing, that hasn't called me in years. And they wanted to make sure they had the best email address for me. And I found out why, because my friend Ty came over. Ty, who wrote this book, he was just here this evening. He said they want permission to allow his book to be combed by AI and used for something or other, and he'll get $200 for it. So I'm sure they're going to make me that same offer, and that's why they wanted my email. Like, what a crappy choice for an author to have to make. I could use $200, but what? I have to feed the Terminators in their rise? It's cool. Well, it'll really help the military to know about these landscapes. Wait, what? Because Ty wrote this great book. I had 2 copies. I gave him one of them tonight, and he didn't take it. He said he just bought a box of them to sell at events. I never do that. I did once when my book came out, and I was doing a lot of events. But Ty's, this is a really useful, unconventional book. What a great cover. That's so good. We were talking about how it shows successive eras of New Mexico all in one picture. He was like, well, I can't credit myself with doing that consciously, but I think you gotta give your unconscious credit. Are you even a reader if you don't read 2 copies of the book at once? Come on, take your reading serious. I'll give one of these away. I just had 3 until recently, and I gave another away. So in the last video, we looked at 3 here, and it talked about the Amabia. In this one, you'll see that these are all New Mexico. Albuquerque's parks and open space. When my dad got dementia and his condo got sold here in Albuquerque, I got a stack of books from his place. Most of them were mine that he had borrowed. And one time he came over when we didn't know he had dementia. He's all, cool, free books, basically, and just took all my books off my shelves. He left with armloads of books, and some of them were like, it's kind of weird to put this Bill Bryson book with Bill Bryson. I feel like that should be with Shakespeare. But yeah, this is one of the ones he took, and I got back when shelf is too tight. I don't like that. But this is such a good book. I got the illustrated version. This is my individual authors part 2 case in my bedroom. Writers that I have a lot of, but not enough to fill a whole section. Like, that's quite a bit of Knausgaard, you know? But not enough for shelf. Oh, and then Montaigne, good old Montaigne. Father of the essay. Oh, and Mike Davis, the best historian ever. I love you so much. Mike Davis was the best. But Howard Zinn's pretty great too. Well, I got a Zinn section here. These Cecil Adams books are awesome. I'm going to reread them. I was thinking about John McPhee, Annie Dillard, you rock. Albert Camus, Fitzgerald, Bill Bryson. You gotta laugh. I love to laugh. Honestly, it just feels good. Edward Abbey, Willa Cather. Looks like those got mixed together a little bit. I gotta fix that. Cormac McCarthy, a goat. Tim O'Brien, pretty awesome. Jack Handy, so funny. Order has been restored. Oh man, I just heard, okay, I haven't mentioned specific political figures much on this channel because I'm desperate for your likes and subscriptions. But I just heard that Trump wants to resume nuclear testing. Oh man, let's all form a giant wave like in World War Z and crash down on the White House. World War Z, the movie where the zombies all move, is like a giant mass. That cannot be. We cannot live in a world with resumed nuclear testing. We can't. Like, I'm so jaded. I've so given up on protesting personally, honestly. I've protested so much in my life. I've been tear gassed, etc. And, I'll find myself in these situations again, no matter what. But how could we not pour out into the streets and protest if that happens? We can't have resumed nuclear testing. Give me a break. My friend came over, which was great, but then he tells me that, which is not great. Just got my car out of the shop after so much work. So much work. Ugh, it's put me in a real hole. other things. But anyway, as I was driving home, my freaking engine light turns on. So I gotta go in tomorrow. But I have to do this other stuff, this last minute CNM stuff for signing up for classes. And I've got to get certified as an EA so that I can pick up this job that's being offered to me at Manzano. But I gotta rush certify. It's gonna be a busy day. Okay, but Arcadia Publishing, that's what we're talking about, right? I'm reading a book on self-hypnosis. It's very interesting. 4 books on the topic, and I've wanted to study that form as a writing device, but also because it's very intriguing. If you could just hypnotize yourself to have like the most confidence you could have and, be your best self and follow healthy routines and stuff, really play tricks with your subconscious. Not tricks, but like learn the mechanisms and so on. How to move yourself, Book sounds like it's written by a very unusual person. She wrote a self-published book before this called The Hitchhiking Hypnotist. She was like a 70s hippie that hitchhiked all around. She didn't believe in power relationships where anybody had any power over the other person, so she gave her kids all her possessions, all their land and stuff, and her kids were like independent growing up, and one had moved out by the age of 12 and another had bought the house and the land completely, and like she's a far out cat that would make a super interesting story for a movie, I think. But this is a way interesting book. The wildest part is she was like this Berkeley, she's like legit. UCLA medical school. Like hypnosis is something that's real. I'm very hypnotizable apparently. Not like the people in the Now You See Me movies. It sounds weird, but I used to have a scoutmaster who was a licensed psychologist that used hypnosis a lot. And he would do it as like a camping trip bit, basically. And like we'd all be lying out in the Sandias or someplace on a camping trip, and he'd like walk us through this narrative path, counting down. One time I saw my life as if I was like flying over it, and it was so like convincing. It was basically like a hallucinatory experience. Symbolic and really powerful. And I took one of those online tests once and it said, "You're a fantasy prone individual." Which sure, but also, isn't life a fantasy? No, Mike, it's real. Well, the debate goes on. I'm so close to finishing this book, but I've got to prioritize just fixing my life right now and getting my rent paid. I'm so worried about this. I'm like so behind because of this gap in my employment that happened when I thought I was guaranteed this job at this high school I've been working at almost through the end of the year, and then the person I was filling in for came back suddenly, kind of unexpectedly. No one expected her to. And then Prismo and Squirrel ran their mouths again. People got angry. It all coincided with my car going to hell, and now it's getting fixed. But that engine light, God, okay, hopefully that's a small thing, Also smoked a little as I drove away, and I'm like, is that just like excess oil from all the work they've done getting burned off? I sure hope so. Did I get proper automotive care over 2 places? Please, please, please. Still, good things in life. Met up with my friend Ty, ran into an old friend, awesome. Picked my daughter Willow up from aerial gymnastics and got to talk with her and drove her home. Hung out with Ty at my place, talking. Great. He's like a cool writer friend. His book's coming out in February called Nuclear Family by Ty Bannerman. It's going to be great. But our books have been written in tandem. They have very similar, like we both started our books right around the same time. And we were the 2 nonfiction accepted people that year in creative nonfiction at UNM, our first year. We had met before because I had written an Arcadia book, and he was interested in the process and connecting with the company. And I think I hooked him up. I think I referred him to my editor, Christine. But unlike my friend John LeMay, he didn't mention me in the acknowledgments. Ty. Pretty lame Ty. But he used to have a blog called Forgotten Albuquerque that was the beginning of this. And when we first met, he was doing that blog, and it was great. Like, say I had, this is my dad's copy. Dad, you made this book possible. Thank you. I love you, Mike. That's because I wrote it in his basement at his office. Just because he was my awesome dad my whole life and always was supportive and cool. Just say the complete dedication was from my first marriage. Sorry, I got distracted. But like, so I did a ton of research on Elephant Rock, this rock in this book here when I wrote this stuff. But Ty's blog, Forgotten Albuquerque, found out so much more stuff. And some of it was really cool obtained information. Like he got a headlamp and went under the boulder where it had fallen and took photos of the old paint, the ads that were on the side of that boulder. So like Ty's a great researcher, and he found documents, primary documents that I hadn't found. And I'm like a pretty thorough researcher too when I set my mind to finding out info. You know, like salutes like, you know. Yeah, he's always impressed me with his research abilities because he finds stuff nobody else does, and it's legit. He's not like Pauline Kael, just making it up. There's Ty's book, Forgotten Albuquerque. And the books can be organized in different ways, like by subjects. And, you know, I would take this video more as an ad for wherever you live, you know, find the local history of your place. This series and this publisher is a great reference. And, you know, you could say that it's a whole lot of sameness and stuff, and that they have lines that are, I don't know. I pitched a really cool book to them once that was turned down. It would be lost photos, unidentified photos of America, where you didn't know where it was from. You just knew it was America. And like, if you you could do it by region, you know, like I think that would be so interesting. Maybe now that GeoGuessr guy, Rainbolt, who can identify almost any place on Google Earth, maybe he could find him. I did send him an old photo once, and I'm like, tell me where this is. This one right here, which was found in a book. It's got a dim mountain range in the background, and there's some plants you could maybe identify something by. Tree, building style, I don't know. Model of chair, her fashion. There's some writing on the back of that too. Nothing helpful in identifying it yet in my life history. So some of these I got from my dad, who kind of went crazy, I think, at Walgreens in the beginning of his dementia, and just bought any that looked interesting, which is cool. That's what you should do with books when you have money in your life. Buy them. But I feel bad about this one because I was hired to do a book review of this one for the Albuquerque Alibi back in the day, the Weekly Alibi. Great alternative paper with roots in the heyday of great alternative papers, founded by one of the same people, Perry Picreux, who founded The Stranger in Seattle, very famous, and founded by a co-founder of The Onion. The Alibi was a great paper. But anyway, I got hired to do this, and I think I was feeling really cynical about these Arcadia books at the time, and I could just see that, like, I don't know, I didn't love it, but I critiqued it in the wrong way. I gave it a really harsh review, and I feel bad about that. And because Albuquerque is nicknamed Smallbuquerque sometimes, and you run into everybody, I've almost encountered this author a couple of times in the education system here, and I'm like, I'd apologize, I think, if I did. Because I've since learned, I don't know, I don't feel that my critiques, I don't even remember what they were 100%, but that they were valid, you know. This is a really useful resource. I've held on to this book, and I now realize that, like, you can't critique a local history thing like it's, a great novel or something, even though the effect of it might be, its tone and capturing of a place. Anyway, I'm sorry, Ann Piper, if you ever see this. I think I thought there was, like, it didn't maximize its use of, I objected to, like I never had any white space like this in my book. I was like, they made me, they had an overall word count that I had to fit, but they also had caption length word counts. And so I met the caption length word counts on every page, but it turned out that totaled up to more than the overall word count. And I'm like, well, that's ridiculous, because they just don't want them to be really texty. But I did all this great research, and I crammed it into this book. Writing this book was crazy. I literally lost all the text of it about 2 weeks before it was due, the deadline, and I had to rewrite it all. But I had basically memorized at that point because it was so polished, and I found it very easy to rewrite it all. Do you think there's a couple things in it I'd like to correct still? Like I'm like, are all the dates about Route 66 right in here? This is my dad's copy. This is the only copy of it I have anymore. I always give it away. Let's see. Here's from an event from back when I wrote it. I was a beardy fellow at the time. This book came out in 2006. It's Carl Webb, founder of Cedar Crest. Tuberculosis. Anyway, this is a useful resource if you write about schools and stuff. This book has a page on the high school I've been working at, and that I went to myself, but I went there in the 90s. This is in the 60s. Los Pueblos in New Mexico. Yeah, New Mexico is really interesting because it's dotted with ancient villages. The Pueblos are indigenous towns in New Mexico, and many of them have been there a long time. Zuni was founded in 1200. That's when Tigüe, which fills the valley that Albuquerque fills, was founded too. Albuquerque is the oldest continually inhabited urban center because of that in America, supposedly. Maybe there's others that would make that claim. That is quoted in City at the End of the World by V.B. Price, which is a great book. Yeah, this is very interesting. The pueblos are great. Albuquerque has it wears a necklace of ancient villages that surround it that are centuries and centuries old. It's one of the things that makes the city special, I think. And the pueblos are really, every time I've ever spent any time in a pueblo, they've just been beautiful experiences. They have feast days that they invite friends to. New Mexico is awesome. I freaking love New Mexico. I can't help it. Corrales, this is the North Valley of Albuquerque. But Albuquerque is really a city of villages. It was a little village, but it swelled up all big. And it swallowed up so many other towns and ranches, named ranches that were basically little communities like Montgomery. The North Valley really has its own identity in Corrales and Los Ranchos de Albuquerque and a couple other places. The South Valley is its own unincorporated CDP, Census Data Population Area, just called South Valley. They vote once in a while, on pretty much every year lately, on whether or not to become part of Albuquerque, and it always gets voted down pretty significantly. When Old Town voted against becoming part of Albuquerque, so Albuquerque has a weird history. All right, this isn't so much about Images of America books, but how can you talk about this? Albuquerque is a connecting thread in all these because it's the biggest city in New Mexico. But so Albuquerque was a little village established 1706 in the indigenous collection of villages known as Tigwe, place of the Tiwa people, and maybe not pronounced like that at all. It could have been Tiwesh or something totally different. Spelled Tiguex. And then the Villa de Albuquerque was founded in 1706. Colonization had first happened in 1598 when Oñate came in, and there are communities around here like Bernalillo that predate Albuquerque and go back to then. In 1680, there had been the Pueblo Revolt, and all the Spanish had been driven out of New Mexico, and 1692, there was the Reconquest, and they came back. So then Albuquerque was established in 1706, not that long after that. Apparently, I can really nerd out about Albuquerque. I know the facts. But anyway, so along Albuquerque, the Villa existed just like that for 174 years, and then the railroad came through. Really, it started in the 1870s. But and the railroad wanted to go right by Old Town and through Old Town, but nobody would give land there. They were a conservative little farming town with livestock. Didn't want to take that risk, and so white investors they bought and donated land outside of town, and they built New Albuquerque, and they were two separate towns from that point on. New Albuquerque was a railroad boom town. His first bar was called the Bucket of Blood, and it was real crazy for a long time. But the first prison was made of adobe, so everybody would just burrow out or dig out the hinges. I know that sounds made up, but it's totally true. We did a whole podcast episode on it. It had tons of escapes, and it was like... and the first sheriff was a double murderer and was hanged. But anyway, up until 1947, they were separate. And then there was a vote. If you look at a map, it says Old Albuquerque, New Albuquerque. But in 1947, there was a vote. Old Town, by one vote, voted not to join Albuquerque, but the city council overruled them, and they just were forced to join it. Which on one level feels like a restoration, and it's like positive, and we're one city again. But then it was kind of forced. And unfortunately, it really changed the lives of the people of Old Town, as it's now called, because they couldn't have livestock anymore. Their acequias were their waterways. That New Mexico has a long tradition of these waterways, these cultivated streams for crops, etc., trees. Sometimes, like up in the mountains, like the acequia would go under a house, and people would have a floorboard you could lift up and just dip a ladle into. Isn't that awesome? There's an apple harvester who would float all his apples down the acequia up in San Antonio. Anyway, they couldn't have acequias anymore. They couldn't have livestock. All they could do is tourism, and that's what Old Town is now, is residential and tourist. And there's a lot of museums there. It's cool. That's cool. Corrales is the beautiful North Valley, home of, what's the guy's name? Frank Larrabee, R.I.P. He built a lot of Corrales. He was a developer there, but he was also a musician whose song made it into Track of the Moonbeast. And one time, my friend Ty and I, who wrote this one, we were trying to find him so that we could invite him to the premiere of Track of the Moonbeast. We were putting it on at at the local indie theater here, bringing it back for our podcast, City on the Edge. Ty and I have a podcast. It's on all the things, iTunes. It was on Spotify. I don't know if it is anymore, or if we should have it on there. Spotify is really evil, kind of. Great for listeners, bad for musicians, doing some AI freakiness, owned by terrible folks. I know the musicians at Hawk and a Hacksaw. They live in the South Valley, and they got a Spotify check once for like 80 cents. And they're like accomplished people that are like tour internationally and, are on NPR regularly. Viewed in Pitchfork, etc. He was in Neutral Milk Hotel. So was Heather on the reunion tour. Anyway, it's on SoundCloud where we post it. So, but it's, if you like Albuquerque, check it out. Weirdly, we do have fans from elsewhere in the world. Jean-Yves, hey, one of them watches this channel in France, and his cats like to see my cats. On that note, I had a Jean-Yves cat. I forget the name. Let me think. Say hi to Joseph. That's the name, right? Say hi, kitty. Say hello. Yeah. A listener of this channel in France has a cat that loves to see Baby Squirrel up on the TV and Sweet Pea and Prisma. That's amazing to me. Say hi to Joseph. Come on. Say hi to the kitty. Anyway, these are great books. This is a great series. I shouldn't have been written that mean review that one time. Regrets. I've had a few. Albuquerque's parks and open spaces. Some of them are kind of interesting, and the history is crazy, like Roosevelt Park. Tingley Beach. I forgot. Yeah, that's an interesting one. The Clyde Tingley era. I look back at my younger self and I'm quite embarrassed a lot. I got my Arcadia contract because I wrote them a letter about how they should let me write a book because another book of theirs that I read, I didn't like it so much. And that book is fine, whatever. I mean, it kind of does that stuff that I've talked about where it does minimal research and so on. It was not the Education Albuquerque one. It was a different one. And, but I just wrote a letter bashing it. And by the end, I was like, I could write a much better book than this on my area. Would you like me to? And, yeah, they gave me a book contract. That's crazy. The power of negativity, the power of negative thinking. That actually propelled me forward at one point. That's probably not good. Many times in my life, I've had, particularly in my young life, positive reinforcement for negativity. And that's, what do I do with that, Okay, 2 of these I'm taking out. But I'm keeping John LeMay's Roswell book here. It should be with the rest of the New Mexico books. That's a pretty cool collection of Images of America books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I wonder how many they have for the state. I bet there's 100. If you get the one for Graham County, Arizona, which I've only seen through an interlibrary loan, my ancestors, my direct ancestors, like my great and great great and great 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 grandparents are all over that book. It's crazy. So exciting to see that one. And I have a chapter of my book that I wrote, really, that I'm still writing. People Who Want Me Gone is the chapter. Really drew from that research a lot. But it goes back in Southwest. I have a different vision for this wall on this shelf. That is a 3-sided, really it's a 4-sided bookcase right there. But I think I could use it better if I use it as a divider on this wall. Stuck it out, moved the couch over here. Then I could move that table over too, so I wouldn't have to move it every time I get the DVD case open. I'd put this chair facing out over here. That's probably what's going to happen. But also cover up that unsightly cord. I love it. I've gone mad with power. But it's going to be a big deal having to redo this wall when I move that stuff. Not everything, but part of it. I like the wall as is pretty much. Except for the gaps that still need things. Those are all different planets. Lone book in the nonfiction section. Guess I'll put these back. Cats kept bumping what was there, so I feel like I can't really put anything there. The books are always getting pushed in. So I removed the top ones there and put that Mormon cricket paperweight. Those things are creepy. They're all over Utah. Give this second copy of Ty's book away. Okay, things have been restored. We've looked at all of the top shelf of this case now. Already looked at all of that case. Just next we'll look at these New Mexico books right here. Honestly, there's some good stuff here. Very excited about looking at some of these. I'm insane. I've lost all sense of what's cool. I think that's cool. I'm still considering writing this sci-fi novel in November, but I feel like I should focus on my book instead and maybe save that one. If I do, though, I want to read this at the same time. I've been thinking about that, but so much I want to read, and I just don't end up reading as much as I want. I definitely watch more movies time-wise than I read. Watch and listen to YouTube. I don't know. Life's crazy. All right, well, good luck to you all in this crazy world they call Earth. Seriously, if any of you are just like, what do I do with all this money? Mike's in a crisis right now. Help him out. At Michael Farrell Smith on PayPal. I'm organizing my life so I stop having emergencies, but it's kind of a slog sometimes. I feel like everything gets delivered with a 1-2 punch. Anyway, there's that PayPal info on the about part of this channel. I'll shut up. Just watching these videos is crazy. I don't know. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm wasting y'all's time. It's a project, you know, the databasing of a person's book collection. You know, like it's a case study. And really, this is the only way we could have properly scientifically observed all three of these cats. That's what this channel ultimately is, a study of three very unusual creatures. Telepathic powers. You have to study things like that obliquely. Watch this great video of Guillermo del Toro talking about his houses full of art. I'm like, I guess that's a good use of being famous, because his art is like famous movie props and stuff like that he's like protecting for art history, and they're kind of, his houses sound amazing. Sounds like that's as much his life as making movies, honestly, the way he talks. I liked how what he calling the collection in his life was just everything that filled his homes, and it included books, and it included art and sculptures. Crazy. He talked about being creatively inspired by all the things in his space. I think that's what I want too, you know? Maybe this apartment is the candy shell around the chocolate of the book. Oh, gross. This is filled with some sort of muck. Prismo. So cute. If you live in Albuquerque and I know you and you see this video and you would like this copy of Forgotten Albuquerque, I will give it to you. If that's you, Lisa, just ask. Do you have one of Ty's books, Lisa? It's going to ride around in my car till it finds a family. Not on the back seat, because I think the sunroof leaks slightly. Arcadia books. Love them, love to hate them, hate to love to hate to love them, or just love to love and love them. Which is it? Spit it up. I think they're pretty cool. And I think wherever you live, study it, you know, get to know things. See it in its place in the one big thing. I live in New Mexico, you live wherever. Assuming it's some sort of shut-in, you're like a prisoner or something. Why would you watch these videos? Look, I know you walked into the Maine woods years ago in the 1980s, and you've been living on candy and stolen things all this time. Even so, you really sunk to a real low. This guy's just talking about his books. This is what content makers call content. Definitely ain't art. But then again, you do anything enough, I think the whole scope of this channel, you could label it an artwork, why not? Here's a guy talking about every book in his collection. That's a conceptual art piece when it's done. So maybe I'll give it a title and edit it down to documentary length and make the case. Jiro Dreams of Sushi is a movie. The documentary Anton Gaudi is a movie, and I love it. It's all establishing shots. We should all make movies. We got phones in our pockets that are amazing. Think of people selling their blood to buy Super 8 cameras back in the day, you know? The lowest quality stuff. You want what you can work with, and we've all got the ability to like make art. I love film. I'm energized by film. Much of the crit section is film related. Not all of it, but some. God, I gotta figure out my life. Okay, well, hang in there, everybody. Too shall pass, but it's gonna be a wild ride.